The last thing Adrian Vale said before I died was, "You always make things harder than they need to be." His voice came through the sedan speakers with the patient calm he used at charity dinners. Rain hammered the windshield, turning the flooded service road beneath Eastbridge into a gray blur. The brake pedal had gone soft 3 minutes earlier. The engine died 30 seconds after that. Water pressed against the doors and seeped over the floor mats, soaking my shoes. "Adrian," I whispered. My throat tasted of fear and burned wiring. "Those transfers weren't mine. You used my signature. You signed what was placed in front of you. You said they were foundation renewals. And you believed me." The car shifted under the current. I pulled at the handle, but the pressure held it shut. The emergency hammer was missing from its clip. That was when I understood the failed brakes, the route his driver had insisted I take, and the folder in the trunk containing ledgers that made it look as if I had authorized millions in fraudulent loans. He had not abandoned me to an accident. He had arranged an ending. "I sent copies," I lied. For the first time, his breathing changed. "To whom?" Cold water climbed around my ankles. I remembered magazine photographs of us beneath crystal chandeliers, Adrian's hand at my back, diamonds at my throat, captions calling me fortunate and adored. I remembered my younger sister Celeste studying those photographs as if my life were a prize I had stolen from her. "You think you won," I said through chattering teeth. "One day someone will see what you are." "No," Adrian replied. "They will see what I give them permission to see." The call ended. A wall of water struck the car, glass cracked, and darkness swallowed me. Then a spoon tapped against a champagne flute. I opened my eyes to warm light, polished walnut, and rosemary lamb. My lungs still burned as if they were full of river water. My fingers clawed the linen tablecloth hard enough to wrinkle it. "Evelyn," my mother said, "sit up." I looked around the private dining room of the Beaumont Club and saw people who had been absent from my closed funeral. My father sat at the head of the table. My mother wore the cream suit she had bought for my engagement dinner. Across from me, Celeste was 26 again. At the far end sat Adrian, 32, immaculate, alive. My chair scraped backward. His eyes narrowed with mild interest while my father frowned. "As I was saying," Father continued, "the Hart and Vale families have reached an understanding. Evelyn and Adrian will announce their engagement at the winter benefit. In my first life, I had blushed. I had mistaken Adrian's reserve for dignity and believed the marriage would protect Hart Manufacturing. This time, before anyone could raise a glass, Celeste stood. "I can't let you do this." Her voice trembled beautifully. She wore a dark green dress, the color Adrian had once told a reporter he preferred on women. Mother's mouth tightened. "Sit down." "Evelyn doesn't love him." Celeste looked directly at Adrian. "She told me she feels trapped." She placed a photograph on the table. It showed her leaving the Halcyon Hotel beside Adrian, his hand on her elbow. The angle made the encounter look intimate. "I didn't want anyone to see this," she said, pressing a palm to her stomach. "But Adrian and I have been seeing each other. I may be pregnant." The room became so quiet I heard the wine refrigerator hum behind the paneled wall. Adrian did not deny it. He leaned back, watching both of us, as if the evening had become useful. My first life self would have shattered. I had spent years believing that losing approval meant losing worth. But I noticed details Celeste expected everyone else to miss. She said, "Maybe pregnant," not that she was. Her tears came without ruining her makeup. And when Father muttered that the Vale Tower opening could not survive a scandal, she reacted before she could hide it. Vale Tower would not be announced for 11 months. Celeste remembered the future. She had come back too. She remembered the mansion, the magazines, the private cars, and Adrian's growing power. She did not remember the locked accounts, the monitored calls, or the water climbing inside my car. Father turned on me. "Say something." Adrian expected anger. Celeste expected a battle that would prove she had defeated me. Mother expected me to preserve the family's dignity by begging privately and smiling publicly. I folded my napkin and placed it beside my plate. If Adrian prefers Celeste, the engagement should be theirs. Mother blinked. "Don't be ridiculous." I released both families from any agreement involving me. Celeste's lips parted. Adrian's thumb stopped moving along the edge of his watch. Father lowered his voice. "You do not have the authority." "The marriage would be mine. I have enough authority to say no." "You're humiliated," Celeste said quickly. You don't have to pretend. I met her eyes. I hope you get exactly what you want. For 1 second, uncertainty crossed her face. Then Adrian rose and buttoned his jacket. A reluctant wife benefits no one. He held out his hand to Celeste. We will correct the announcement. She took it, glowing beneath the chandelier. Within minutes, my future was reassigned like a seat at a banquet. No one asked where I would go. That was useful. It gave me time. I left before dessert, walked 3 blocks through freezing air, and vomited beside a row of black town cars. Every tire on wet pavement sounded like water striking glass. I crouched behind a stone planter until a doorman asked whether I needed an ambulance. No, I said. I need a taxi. I went to my apartment and pulled every file box from the closet. In my first life, I had let Mother pack my papers when I moved into Adrian's house. That mistake had cost me access to my birth certificate, tax records, and the trust documents my grandmother left me. Grandmother Ruth had given me 40% of an old warehouse on Mercer Street and a modest investment account managed by Father under a family power of attorney. The warehouse looked nearly worthless then, but I remembered that the city would approve a transit extension nearby. In my first life, Father convinced me to transfer my share to Hart Manufacturing as collateral for a Vail-backed loan. Adrian later used the transfer to keep me financially dependent. At 8 the next morning, I called Miriam Cole, the attorney who had drafted the will. I need to revoke every power of attorney my parents hold, I said, and I need a restriction placed on any transfer of my warehouse interest. Has someone pressured you? Not yet. That answer made her take me seriously. By noon, I had signed revocations under fluorescent lights. Certified copies went to the bank, the county recorder, and Father's attorney. I opened accounts at a bank my family did not use, froze my credit, changed every password, and placed my identification in a safe deposit box. When the paperwork was finished, I sat in Miriam's conference room with coffee cooling between my hands. What are you afraid of? She asked. I could not tell her I had drowned because a billionaire needed a dead wife with a convincing signature. I'm afraid that if I wait until I can prove it, I'll already be trapped. She nodded. Then we build a paper trail before the trap exists. That became the first solid rule of my second life. My parents discovered what I had done 2 days later. Father arrived at my apartment with Mother behind him in a sable-trimmed coat. You embarrassed us, he said as soon as I opened the door. I kept the chain latched. Then you should be relieved I won't attend the announcement. Vail Capital is reviewing our credit facility. Your behavior could cost hundreds of people their jobs. That was how Father framed obedience. If I refused, workers would suffer. If I questioned a contract, the family name would suffer. If I objected to a marriage, everyone else would pay. I'm not responsible for financing I didn't negotiate. Your grandmother's warehouse was meant to support this family. It was left to me. Mother stepped closer. Celeste made a mistake, but Adrian is handling it honorably. Sign the property interest to Hart Manufacturing. It will demonstrate goodwill. There it was, faster than in my first life. No. Father's jaw tightened. You will reconsider. I filed notice with the county. Any transfer without my notarized approval will be flagged. For the first time, he looked at me as if I were a stranger. Mother whispered, Who have you become? Someone who reads before she signs. I closed the door. They cut me off that afternoon. Father canceled the family card, removed me from the company health plan, and told the Hart board I had become unstable after the broken engagement. Landlords who knew my family stopped returning calls. A consulting firm withdrew an interview. Friends sent careful messages beginning with, I don't want to take sides. For 3 weeks, I slept with a chair wedged under the doorknob. Freedom did not feel triumphant. It felt like calculating whether I could afford insurance and staring too long at grocery receipts. It felt like checking the hallway before leaving and crying in the shower because no one had followed me, yet my body still expected permission to be revoked. I accepted a temporary analyst position at Northline Cold Storage, a regional logistics company with aging warehouses and a cautious reputation. The salary was modest, but the badge had my name on it, and the bank account receiving the deposit belonged only to me. I also remembered Northline from my first life. A refrigeration failure at its Harbor Point facility would destroy $6 million in medical inventory the following summer. The loss would nearly bankrupt the company, and Vail Capital would buy its assets cheaply. I could not announce the future, so I gathered ordinary evidence. Maintenance logs showed pressure fluctuations. Vendor invoices revealed delayed valve replacements. Temperature alarms relied on software that failed during network outages. I wrote a risk report and gave it to my supervisor. He read the first page and frowned. You've been here 12 days. The equipment has been failing for 2 years. You think everyone else missed it? I think everyone saw one piece. No one put the pieces on the same table. A week later, Northline's chief financial officer, Noah Mercer, called me into a meeting. He was 35, lean, usually rumpled, and unimpressed by famous names. Your report recommends spending $800,000 we did not budget, he said. It recommends preventing a loss we could not survive. Based on a failure that hasn't happened. Based on 3 warning patterns. He removed his glasses. Did Vail send you? My stomach tightened. No. Your family is negotiating with them. I'm not my family's company. Then show me your assumptions. We spent 4 hours with spreadsheets, vendor contracts, and stale coffee. He challenged every number. I was wrong about 2 repair costs and 1 insurance clause, and I corrected them without pretending otherwise. He approved a limited inspection. It found corrosion in a pressure manifold that could have failed under summer load. Northline replaced it. No one called me brilliant, but Noah added me to the permanent risk team and negotiated a raise large enough for me to rent a small apartment near Mercer Street. It had crooked floors, a narrow kitchen, and radiators that clanged at night. I loved it. While I built a life from invoices and bus schedules, Celeste became the city's newest obsession. Her engagement portrait appeared beneath the headline, A Modern Alliance. Adrian gave her a sapphire ring larger than the diamond he had chosen for me. She moved into a penthouse overlooking the river and wore silver at the winter benefit while cameras flashed. Mother mailed me the magazine without a note. I threw it away, then retrieved it from the trash because fear required information. In the photograph, Celeste looked radiant. Adrian's fingers rested around her wrist rather than in her hand. I knew that grip. 3 days later, she came to my office in a cream coat, leaving Adrian's driver at the curb. She studied my gray cubicle and stacks of freight reports. So this is what you chose. It pays me. You always knew how to make losing sound principled. She lifted her hand so the sapphire caught the fluorescent light. We're getting married in June. Congratulations. Her smile thinned. Adrian says your pride is pathological. He had said the same thing in my first life after I questioned why his security team read my emails. I noticed redness beneath her cuff where she had been rubbing her skin. Does he choose your clothes yet? I asked. He has better taste. Does he ask for your passwords? We don't keep secrets. Did you quit the gallery? It was a hobby. I have responsibilities now. I wanted to force 4 years of terror into her mind. Instead, I gave her one warning. Do not sign anything that makes you personally liable for Vail companies or the foundation. Have your own attorney review every page, not his attorney. Celeste laughed softly. You think he still wants you? No. You want me to ruin this because you understand what you gave away. I understand exactly what I gave away. She leaned closer, expensive perfume cutting through the dry office air. Discipline is the price of entering his world. You mistook standards for cruelty because you were never strong enough to meet them. Then she left. My hands remained steady until the elevator doors closed. After that, I pressed a wet paper towel against my neck until the nausea passed. Adrian contacted me the following week. Dinner, Thursday, 7. We should resolve the Mercer property issue privately. I forwarded the message to Miriam and did not answer. The next morning, Northline received a letter claiming my employment created a conflict because I possessed confidential information about Hart Manufacturing's financing. The claim was weak, but fighting Vail was expensive. Northline placed me on paid leave while counsel reviewed it. Adrian called at 6:58 on Thursday. Miriam listened on a recorded line with his knowledge. You were always punctual. He said, I declined. No, you ignored me. That was the decline. You contacted my employer. I protected a transaction from unnecessary risk. You punished me for saying no. His voice softened. I'm trying to keep your family solvent. Celeste understands sacrifice. You could learn from her. What do you need my warehouse share for? Collateral for a broader restructuring. The phrase chilled me. In my first life, broader restructuring described the chain of loans that moved illegal debt through the Vail Foundation. Send every document to Miriam. You don't need outside counsel. I do. You think distance makes you safe, he said. Every choice connects to another choice, and every threat connects to the person who made it. He hung up. The recording was not enough to destroy him, but it was enough for Northline's counsel to reject the claim and warn him against interference. Noah brought me back after 9 days. He asked whether I needed someone to walk me to my car. No, I said too quickly. He nodded, accepting the answer without believing it. The offer remains. It was the first kindness from a man that did not arrive disguised as authority. Celeste married Adrian in June beneath a glass ceiling filled with white orchids. I did not attend. My parents sent a formal notice saying I was unwelcome at family events until I apologized. I spent the wedding day inside the Mercer Street warehouse with a contractor measuring the roof. I did not have enough money for a complete renovation, so I negotiated with 2 small food distributors that needed shared refrigerated storage. They funded part of the conversion in exchange for fixed-rate leases. Northline agreed to consult after I disclosed my ownership. The work moved slowly. Permits stalled. A lender rejected me because Hart Manufacturing would not guarantee the loan. One contractor vanished with a deposit, and I recovered only half through court. Some nights I sat beneath bare bulbs, surrounded by dust and blueprints, wondering whether independence was merely a respectable word for exhaustion. Noah sometimes brought dinner from the diner across the street. He never stayed unless I asked. He never touched my papers without permission. When I flinched at a car backfiring, he did not demand an explanation. "You don't have to tell me," he said. The lack of pressure made my eyes burn. I was in an accident. It was not the whole truth, but it was the first piece I gave anyone. By autumn, the city announced the transit extension and the warehouse value rose. Father called for the first time in 7 months. We should bring the property under Hart management. No, you cannot run a major development alone. I have tenants and counsel. Those people are using you. Then they're doing it through contracts I read. He ended the call. Around the same time, Celeste became director of the Vale Family Foundation. The business pages showed her cutting a ribbon at a children's hospital. The article praised her for leaving the arts to dedicate herself to philanthropy. I knew what the title meant. In my first life, Adrian had made me foundation director 9 months after our wedding. He called the role ceremonial. His chief of staff brought documents to breakfast and marked where I should sign. Some were donor reports. Others moved money among entities with nearly identical names. Vale Foundation Services, Vale Civic Holdings, VCF Management, North Harbor Community Trust. The criminal structure depended on confusion. Money moved in circles until debt looked like charity and personal guarantees looked routine. Celeste had stepped into my old chair. I called Miriam. Find out whether North Harbor exists. It had been incorporated 3 weeks earlier by a law firm tied to Vale Capital. In my first life, North Harbor received $82 million in fraudulent loans. My signatures appeared on 3 authorizations. Adrian intended to blame me when regulators found the missing money. This time, he had a different wife. For 2 nights, I did not sleep. Anger said Celeste had chosen this. Memory reminded me what choice looked like after Adrian controlled the information, money, transportation, and family around you. I wrote her 1 letter. Do not sign any resolution involving North Harbor Community Trust, Vale Civic Holdings, or personal guarantees. Photograph every page already signed. Store copies outside your home. Contact an attorney with no connection to Adrian or our family. I will not contact you again unless you ask. I sent it by certified mail to the gallery where her former assistant worked. 3 weeks later, it came back unopened. Across the envelope, in Celeste's handwriting, were 4 words. Stop trying to interfere. Winter settled over the city. Northline's Harbor Point facility survived its busiest season without failure. My warehouse opened with 2 tenants and 1 empty unit. The income covered the loan, but little else. I ate soup from the same pot for days and slept on a secondhand mattress. Still, no one could freeze my account because I wore the wrong dress to dinner. No one read my messages. No one asked why I needed the car. In February, Celeste appeared beside Adrian at the launch of Vale Horizon, an investment platform marketed to pension funds and charities. A reporter asked about her role. Adrian answered for her. My wife brings warmth to institutions that can feel impersonal. Her fingers tightened around the podium. 2 months later, she called me at 1:14 in the morning. At first, neither of us spoke. Then I heard her breathing. Evelyn, she said, do you know what North Harbor is? I sat up. Rain ticked against my window, light and harmless, yet my feet turned cold. Where are you? In the dressing room. At the penthouse? Yes. Is Adrian there? Asleep. Turn off Wi-Fi and Bluetooth. Use cellular only. Why? His security team can monitor devices connected to the house. Silence stretched. How do you know that? I know how he protects information. No, she whispered. You know him. I did not answer. There are loans in my name, she said. 40 million, maybe more. Adrian said they were temporary foundation guarantees. Did your attorney review them? His counsel did. What else? My signature is on transfers I never saw. His chief of staff sends codes to my phone and says they're for donor reports. Exactly as before. Photograph everything you can access. Do not take originals. Do not confront him. Tomorrow morning, go to Miriam Cole. He'll know. Yes. You don't understand. He notices everything. The words struck like cold water. I understand more than you think. She began crying without sound. Then a man's voice spoke in the background. Celeste! The line went dead. I called Miriam and arranged for an attorney to wait. Celeste never arrived. At noon, she posted a photograph beside Adrian at the Vale estate with the caption, "Grateful for my husband's patience during a stressful season." I knew he had written it. Mother called 2 days later. You frightened your sister. Did you speak to her alone? Adrian explained she became confused by complex documents. Did you speak to her alone? There is no reason for secrecy between husband and wife. I gripped my desk. Tell her Miriam will represent her. Tell her the offer does not expire. You are trying to destroy her marriage because you regret your decision. I'm trying to keep your daughter from being indicted. Ask Adrian why a charity needs personal guarantees for North Harbor. She hung up. 3 weeks later, federal regulators raided Vale Capitol. News helicopters circled the glass headquarters before sunrise. Agents carried boxes through the lobby. Vale Horizon suspended withdrawals. Pension funds demanded answers, and Hart Manufacturing's credit line froze by noon. Adrian held a press conference that evening. He stood behind a black podium, controlled and solemn. Celeste was absent. Preliminary evidence indicates that unauthorized commitments were made through the Vale Family Foundation by individuals acting beyond their authority. He said, "We are cooperating fully." Individuals, not executives, not systems. A scapegoat. Father called before the conference ended. Transfer the Mercer property. Vale's bridge loan is frozen. We need collateral by Monday. No. If Hart Manufacturing fails, this will be on you. No. It will be on the people who tied it to Adrian. He began to curse. I ended the call. At midnight, someone knocked on my apartment door. The security camera showed Celeste in black pants and flat shoes, her hair wet, no coat over her thin sweater. She carried a canvas grocery bag instead of a handbag. I opened the door but kept the chain latched. Is he with you? No. Did anyone follow? I changed cars twice. Turn off your phone and leave it in the hall. She obeyed. Only then did I let her inside. Under the yellow kitchen light, she looked smaller than I remembered. Mascara had dried beneath one eye. A red mark circled her wrist, the impression of something held too tightly. He moved the foundation debt into my name, she said after drinking water. He says I approved everything. Did you? I signed what he placed in front of me. The sentence Adrian used before I died. Celeste lowered the glass. You knew. I warned you. No, you knew exactly. I sat across from her. The refrigerator clicked on between us. In another life, I said, I married him. Recognition moved through her face. You remember? Yes. All this time? From the Beaumont Club. And you let me take him. I stepped away. You chose to follow. You knew he would do this. I knew what he did to me. I did not know whether everything would repeat. You could have stopped me. Anger steadied me. How? By begging for the man who killed me, you staged a scandal, claimed you might be pregnant, and offered yourself to him because you believed my suffering was a prize. She recoiled. I sent you a warning. You returned it unopened. Tears gathered in her eyes. I thought you were jealous. I know. She covered her mouth. After a long silence, she whispered, How did you die? I looked at rain sliding down the kitchen window. He placed documents in my name. When I tried to leave, my brakes failed on a flooded road. He called while the car filled with water and told me I had signed what was placed in front of me. Celeste bent forward as if the words had weight. I hated you, she said. Everyone compared us. Mom kept your magazine covers. Dad talked about your charity work. I thought you had taken the life I deserved. You saw photographs. I saw what I wanted. I let that truth remain between us, then asked, "What evidence did you bring?" She lifted the grocery bag onto the table. Inside were printed emails, 2 flash drives, a paper ledger, and a voice recorder. "I started copying things after I called you. Adrian's chief of staff keeps a duplicate approval log because he doesn't trust the electronic system. It shows transfers ordered before I became director. I recorded Adrian telling me what to say if regulators questioned me." That mattered more than tears. Miriam arrived with another attorney before dawn. We made forensic copies, documented the chain of custody, and arranged for Celeste to meet federal agents. Before leaving, she reached for my hand. I pulled mine back. Her face crumpled. "I'll help you tell the truth," I said. "I will not lie for you, pay your debts, or surrender my life to repair yours. You cannot stay here after tonight." She nodded. "I understand." "No. You're beginning to." The investigation moved quickly. Adrian had prepared messages portraying Celeste as unstable and greedy. He drafted separation papers leaving her liable for $47 million and arranged electronic approvals from her phone. But arrogance made him repetitive. The duplicate log showed North Harbor transactions beginning 6 months before the wedding. Email metadata linked the shell companies to his chief counsel. Celeste's recording captured Adrian instructing her to claim she had acted alone. My recorded call showed him threatening consequences when I refused to pledge Mercer Street to the same restructuring network. My evidence did not prove every crime. It proved motive and a pattern. Combined with Celeste's records, it gave investigators a map. Adrian still believed he controlled the story. Vail Capital scheduled an emergency shareholder meeting at the Grand Meridian Hotel, where he and I had once hosted an anniversary gala in my first life. Pension representatives, reporters, and Heart Board members filled the ballroom. I attended under subpoena regarding the collateral discussions. The room smelled of coffee, hot lights, and expensive wool dampened by snow. Father sat near the aisle without looking at me. Mother twisted her wedding ring. Celeste entered with her attorneys wearing a plain gray suit and no sapphire. Adrian stood beneath the Vail logo. He looked tired, not frightened. He spoke about legacy, accountability, and isolated failures, then displayed a chart placing the foundation beneath Celeste's control. "My wife exercised authority beyond the role approved by the board," he said. "I regret that personal trust prevented me from recognizing it sooner." His attorney called me, expecting my testimony to support the claim that Celeste had a history of manipulation. "Ms. Hart, isn't it true your sister deliberately displaced you as Mr. Vail's fiancé?" "Yes." "And fabricated a possible pregnancy?" "Yes." "So, she has a documented history of deception for personal gain?" "She does." Celeste's shoulders tightened. The attorney smiled. "And you warned her against participating in the foundation because you distrusted her judgment." "I warned her not to sign documents involving North Harbor because Adrian had already tried to obtain my property as collateral for what he called a broader restructuring." His smile vanished. Miriam submitted the recorded call, my certified letter, and the public incorporation dates. Federal counsel introduced the duplicate approval log. The first North Harbor authorization had been issued 183 days before Celeste became director. The second carried Adrian's executive code. The third linked funds to Vail Horizon weeks before Celeste had system access. Reporters bent over keyboards. Board members whispered. Attorneys hurried into the corridor. Then Celeste's recording played through the ballroom speakers. "If they ask," Adrian's voice said, "you expanded the position without approval. You wanted to prove you were more capable than Evelyn. People already believe sisters compete. Give them the story they expect." Celeste's recorded voice trembled. "And what happens to me?" A pause. "That depends on whether you remain useful." For the first time, Adrian looked at her without control. He looked betrayed, as if only he were entitled to turn trust into evidence. The board suspended him before the meeting ended. Federal agents waited outside. Vail Capital froze executive assets and announced independent supervision. Adrian tried to leave through a service corridor, but cameras caught him between 2 agents beneath the hotel's gold ceiling. As he passed me, he stopped. "This was unnecessary," he said quietly. My lungs tightened. For a second, I smelled river water instead of carpet cleaner and coffee. Noah stood several feet away, close enough to offer presence without stepping in front of me. I looked Adrian in the eyes. "No, It was documented. He was led away. The consequences did not resolve neatly. Vale Capital survived under court supervision, but Adrian lost the company his family had controlled for 3 generations. He was indicted for wire fraud, conspiracy, obstruction, and witness tampering. 2 executives accepted plea agreements and testified that Celeste's role had been designed as a liability shield. Hart Manufacturing entered restructuring. Father blamed me publicly until the board removed him. The company continued on a smaller scale, preserving most jobs but losing the prestige he valued more than sleep. Mother asked to meet 6 months later. We sat in a quiet cafe where no one knew our name. I should have listened, she said. Yes. I thought protecting the family meant keeping everyone together. You protected the arrangement, not the people. She cried. I did not comfort her, but I did not leave. We agreed to 1 call a month and no discussion of my money, relationships, or property. When she violated the boundary, I stopped answering until she learned to respect it. Father never apologized. I sent him a card after his surgery and nothing more. Celeste pleaded guilty to false statements on 2 disclosures. Her cooperation spared her prison, but she received probation, community service, and a 5-year ban from directing charitable organizations. She sold Adrian's jewelry for legal fees. The sapphire ring went to a federal auction. For almost a year, we spoke only through attorneys. Then one afternoon, she came to the Mercer warehouse during open hours carrying lunch from the diner. I already ate, I said. Can I leave it? She had found work coordinating exhibits for a small museum. She lived in a studio and took the bus. You can stay 10 minutes. We sat on the loading dock while delivery trucks moved through pale spring sunlight. I used to think this place proved you failed, she said. The warehouse hummed behind us. What do you think now? She studied her hands. I think you built something no one could wear for you. It was not forgiveness. It was honest enough to begin with. Over time, we learned a limited kind of sisterhood. No shared accounts, no secrets kept for appearances, no pretending the past had been a misunderstanding. Some months we drank coffee, some months we did not speak. When she apologized, I stopped rushing to make the apology easier for her. Northline grew because Harbor Point never suffered the failure that had destroyed it in my first life. I became director of operational risk, then left to open a small compliance firm on the renovated upper floor of the Mercer warehouse. Noah invested nothing. That mattered to me. He recommended clients, challenged my budgets, and waited until I invited him into the parts of my life that frightened me. Our relationship grew so quietly, I did not recognize it at first. A toothbrush appeared only after he asked. He kept a key but never used it without texting. When I woke from dreams of rising water, he did not hold me down or insist I was safe. He turned on the kitchen light, made tea, and sat across from me until I decided whether I wanted company. Adrian had given me diamonds and called them security. Noah gave me choices and never called them gifts. On the 5th anniversary of the night I returned, I stood in the apartment I had purchased above the warehouse. Snow pressed softly against the windows. Below me, refrigeration units hummed and trucks moved beneath clean white lights. My accounts were balanced. My name was on the deed. The front door locked from the inside and no one else controlled the key. Celeste had sent a message that morning. I remember what I took from you. I understand now that it was never your future. I did not answer immediately. I poured coffee into my favorite chipped mug and watched dawn spread over the brick rooftops. In my first life, I had lived in a mansion where every room was beautiful and none of them belonged to me. In this one, the floorboards creaked, the radiator complained, and the windows needed replacing. But when I opened the door, it opened because I chose it. That was the difference between luxury and freedom.